What is actually wrong with you?
Her.
Okay. So welcome to Cause of Crime. I'm Trace.
And I'm Chris.
And this is Cause of Crime.
Cause of Crime.
So, Chris, why are you so
Yeah.
nervous? Like, why are you so nervous?
It's nerve-wracking, man. It's just so nerve-wracking.
You've done this before, though. What? You have jitters when it's you and me talking, and anything that happens, I can edit out. Like, if you say words that aren't comprehensible, guess what? I can edit those out.
I mean, as long as you catch it.
The power of editing.
Editing.
As long as I catch it, you realize I reel over these podcast recordings and edit out so many things. Guys, if you don't know, I mess up a lot. A lot. I get my words mixed. I make all kinds of noises. See, we edit those out because no one wants to listen to that.
We speak our own languages sometimes, you know?
We really do. We really
We
do.
understand each other, but you wouldn't understand us, but we understand each other.
Because Chris just agrees with me, even if a word that I'm saying isn't an actual word. She's just like, yeah, of course. I'm really upset. How is this guy not caught? And I'm like, yeah, you understood that? She's like, yeah. Okay, that wasn't a word. Get a dictionary. That's not a word. But we're back. We actually decided to take a little bit of time off in between the last episode and these episodes that we're recording. So I'll be covering the case of Amy Mihaljevic today, and Krista, you're covering
the disappearance of Jennifer Kessie.
Exactly. So these will not be released back to back. You'll get the Amy Mihaljevic case first, and then the schedule is also on our socials, but the Jennifer Kessie disappearance will be at the end of the month. I really need to gear down and do some research for Aberrant. I need to do that.
Oh, I need to start finding some things. Trust me, we got this.
Chris is so excited for Aberrant, which, if you guys don't know, if this is your first episode with us and you're still here, thank you. And second, if you're still here, we're also doing a spooky podcast, and it's called Aberrant, and it releases at the end of the month. And Chris is super excited.
I am. I'm super excited.
The Sally house is what I want to cover first on the Aberrant, but it's going to take some time to get the research done.
Well, if we have to wait to release that first episode until September, we can. It's something new, and there's a lot of information, especially when it comes to spooky things.
That's very, very true. So just stay tuned for that, but it is coming. Aberrant is coming. But we want to make sure we're getting through our catalog on Cause of Crime, and we're talking about these cases. I also want to talk about something else real quick. I can't be the only person this happens to, and it's completely unrelated to any true crime thing. So just, if you want to skip forward, you totally can. But does anybody else wake up in the morning and no matter what, you have allergies? Like, you wake up sniffly and miserable no matter what time of year it is?
I do that almost every morning.
I am so over it. I'm like, why do I still have these allergies no matter what time of year it is? Because it'll be the dead of winter and I'll wake up like that. And I'm like, why?
Yeah, I wake up like that. Usually what I do is just go back to sleep.
Here's the thing. If I can't breathe, I can't sleep. So I'm like, mine sometimes get so bad. Like, it's every morning. Sometimes get so bad where I'm like, okay, I'm just going to lay here until it gets better. And anytime I roll over, you know how you'll like half roll over to wake up and look at your phone? If I
Mhm.
do that and I sniffle, it's over. I'm up because I can't go back to
Mhm.
sleep like that. It's awful. But I just wanted to kind of rant about that. It has nothing to do with anything that we're discussing today or anything in general with your life probably, but it is really frustrating me lately. So, and
Listen.
I started taking allergy medicine too, and it's still not doing jack. I'm like, come on.
Listen, but have you ever woken up in a panic on the weekend thinking that you're late for work? Because I do that all the time.
So I don't do that, but what I do is I wake up on a weekday and then I'm like, oh, it's the weekend. And I remind myself, hey, it's Thursday. Fuck.
No, see, I actually launch myself out of bed and scare my fiance because I think I'm late for work. And I'm like, "Oh, wait, it's Saturday. I'm not late."
Oh, and when you're off on Fridays now, right? So now that's got to be
Yeah.
a trip for you. You're like, oh, it's Friday. I should be at work right now.
Yeah, yeah. It's bad. And and I hate whenever I launch up like that
Mm-hmm.
because it gives you such a big adrenaline rush that, like,
It takes a
you're,
second
like,
to
in
come down.
panic.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
takes a second.
it's
You're like, okay, I'm okay. Everything is okay. Can we talk about anxiety for a second here too? We're getting just fast forward if you don't want to listen to this. We're going to talk about a really important case later. But have you ever been so anxious, like for no reason, that you're just laying in bed to go to sleep and you can feel your heart racing? Because
Yes.
same, sis. Fucking same. And I'm just like, everything's fine. You're laying in bed going to sleep. Your life is good. Everything's fine. And my body's like, bitch, fight or flight. Let's go. And I'm like, alrighty then.
Yeah, I do that too. Oh gosh.
So
Man.
if you relate to any of this, you found your people.
Yeah.
If not, and you fast forwarded, that's fine too. We're not everybody's people. I guess we should hop into our cases because that's why people listen to this.
Yes.
And I have, personally speaking, I'm going to speak about my case on this episode, and then Chris will go into her spiel on the next episode. But my case is very important, as all of them are. But this one is one that really resonates with me. And it's the murder of Amy Mihaljevic. And I just want to preface this by saying this case is still unsolved and the person who did this is still out there. As you listen, please remember Amy's case, her story, and just Amy in general, because this case can still be solved and Amy can get the justice that she deserves, along with her family finally getting some closure. I also want to give a trigger warning here. There is child death in here and possible SA, sexual assault. If you want to skip this episode, we completely understand. But that is mentioned in here because it's relevant to the case and how they found Amy. Amy Renee Mihaljevic was born on December 11th of 1978 in Little Rock, Arkansas. She was the daughter of Mark and Margaret Mihaljevic. She lived with her parents and her older brother Jason in Bay Village, Ohio after moving there when she was only 3. The family dog's name was Jake, and he was so loved by Amy. Amy's mother, Margaret, worked at Trading Times Magazine, and her father worked for an auto dealership. I believe he was a traveling auto dealership salesman type. I don't know his exact role, but I know he traveled for work. Amy loved horses, so she loved her dog Jake. She absolutely loved horses. She loved animals. Her best friend's name was Kristen. They did everything together from sleepovers to watching movies, everything that little kids do. Amy was intelligent and she was part of the school's gifted and talented program. Amy had so much potential, as you can just in those few statements that I stated, in those few sentences, you can tell Amy was intelligent. She had a lot of potential. She could have done anything with her life that she wanted to. She could have brought so much good to the world, but she didn't get the opportunity to do that because of one man. We believe it's one man. We don't know for sure. Everything points to one man, but nobody's arrested, so don't come at me for that one. In 1989, Amy was 10 years old in 5th grade, while her brother Jason was 13 years old and in 7th grade. Friday, October 27th, 1989 is the day that everything changed. Amy and her brother Jason biked to school that morning like any other day. Amy had an aqua-colored bike with a white wicker basket and was wearing a light green outfit. On this specific day, an officer came to Amy's class to talk about the importance of being aware of, quote, stranger danger. And knowing what happens to Amy, this is a very eerie fact. It was on the exact day that she disappeared. Amy's class always let out earlier than Jason's class. So Amy got out of class around 2 p.m. and she usually beat Jason home by about an hour. So I'm going to introduce you to a term that most people are probably aware of, but the term latchkey kids is used here because the kids made it home before the parents because of work. And remember the year 1989. Bay Village was known as a pretty safe area, so most of the time parents didn't have any concerns about their children making it home alone. And 1989 seems like light years away. And just think about how different things were. Jason originally planned to go to the local hangout attached to a shopping center after school, which was the local hangout was pretty much the Baskin Robbins part of Bay Village Square. But he changed his mind and decided to just go home to avoid any potential bullies hanging out there. He just wasn't in the mood for it that day. This shopping center of the Bay Village Square is where all the kids went after school to hang out. But when Jason arrived home that day, Amy wasn't there and there was no sign of her bike. Amy should have been home before Jason and they would have traveled the exact same route to get home. So if she would have stopped somewhere, Jason would have seen her or her bike there. But he's seen her nowhere. Jason knew something was amiss, so he called his mom to let her know Amy never came home. In the back of Margaret's mind, she remembered that Amy told her that morning that she had choir tryouts after school. Regardless, Amy not being home alarmed Margaret and she decided to leave work early. But then, her phone rings again. And it's Amy. So a wave of calm washes over Margaret because she's thinking, Amy's calling, she's safe, she just got home late. Margaret in the call asked how the tryout went, and Amy said, okay. She asked how she was doing, and Amy said, fine. They talked back and forth for a moment, and Margaret thought that Amy was calling from home. She was not. Still, Margaret headed home because she had a weird feeling. Mother's intuition. A little bit later, she arrives home and Amy is not there because Amy did not call from home. But if she didn't call from home, where was she? Contact her friends, relatives, neighbors. But she wasn't around. They couldn't find her. They couldn't locate her. She hadn't been any of those places. Margaret raced to the school to see if there's any trace of Amy because she knew she went to school that day. And she finds her bike still in the bike rack, but there's no trace of Amy. And this was the moment Margaret states that she knew something tragic had happened to her little girl. Margaret then reported Amy missing around 6 p.m. Searches for Amy began immediately, with Mark, her father, coming home from work around this time to assist with finding her, because remember, he traveled for work. I don't know his exact job title, as I mentioned, but he just came home around this time.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and play a clip of Margaret the day after Amy's disappearance so you can hear how impacted she was from the start of Amy's disappearance. She was another level of heartbroken. She is probably, I do a lot of research for this podcast. I do a lot of, personally, I watch a lot of true crime related things, but she is probably the one that sticks with me the most as being the most heartbroken.
Just find her, tell her to come home. Whatever is wrong, just have her come home.
Did you hear her voice? What did you think about that, Chris?
So sad.
You can hear her heart breaking. I just wanted you guys to hear that because me saying, oh, she was heartbroken, like this really rocked this family. Me saying that does not do justice about how heartbroken that they were. So before we get into searches, I want to bring you back to school that day and what the adults in Amy's life didn't know. Amy told some of her friends at lunch that day that a man had called her saying her mother was being promoted and that the man worked with her mother and wanted to get her a secret gift to celebrate the promotion and surprise her. Amy and her mother were very close. There was not anything she would not have done to make her mom happy. So if she thought that she could get her a surprise gift and surprise her mom and make her smile, she was going to do it. And remember this part. Remember, Amy was a latchkey child. So she was home alone when this man called. So he was likely aware of Amy's parents' work hours and the brief time that Amy would be home before Jason, because that's a very tight window that this man would have to call to get her alone.
Yeah. He would have had to have been like following and watching and seeing, when she would be by herself to get that phone call in.
He would have to have some kind of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
The man asked Amy to meet him to help him pick out her mother's gift, and the man said that she could also pick out a gift for herself, which she's a little girl. She's 10 years old. Of course, if you tell her, hey, you can get a gift for your mom, make her really happy, and then, you can get a gift for yourself, what 10-year-old is not going to take him up on that?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe now with, stranger danger being a more implemented thing. But back in 1989, it was a thing, but it was not in communities like this. This was not something that happened.
Yeah.
When class was dismissed that day, Amy left the school on foot with two of her friends, walking towards the Bay Village Square. Remember that hangout that I referenced to that Jason was supposed to go to that day, but he decided not to? That was the hangout for all the kids to go to after school. So she headed over there with two of her friends. Once they arrived, Amy left her friends to stand by herself as she waited for the man. Two young 11-year-old eyewitnesses remembered seeing the man arrive and talk with Amy in front of the Baskin-Robbins. This man put his hand on the middle of her back and escorted her towards the parking lot. There was no struggle, and Amy went with the man willingly, likely believing, because she's 10, that his intention was to buy the gifts. Again, she's 10. When the witnesses look back to find Amy again, because they're not staring at her, they're not just like watching her and this man, they just noticed it. It's something you notice. You don't stare because staring's rude, right? You're not going to actively watch them. It's a very busy square. So they saw this go down, and then they look back again to see, hey, where'd Amy go? But she was gone. No one actually saw Amy get into the car with the man, but obviously that's what happened. Amy was taken by this man in the middle of the day around a crowd full of people, and the Bay Village Square is right across from the police station.
God.
So this first off tells you that this man had the confidence, because he took her, and not only took her in a crowd full of people where people could pinpoint him, right? He took her right across from the police station.
Insane. Like, that's super insane.
And I'm going to go into what the FBI thinks about that in just a second, but that just tells you he thought that he was untouchable.
Mm-hmm.
And
because he already...
I hate that this guy is still out here. I hate it.
Yeah. I just... he definitely had to have had the confidence in that, and definitely knew that he had her hooked to go, because if she would have caused any type of scene, that would have been it would have been the end of it. But she was just so set on getting that gift for her mom to surprise her that she didn't know, being 10 years old.
Right, she's 10,
and nobody in the parking lot, unless they know her, is going to say, hey, red flag. You know what I mean? Because
and these
they might
kids.
think that that's her.
These were kids, so.
It's all kids. Like, they're not going to think. They're not going to,
No.
If she's not throwing a struggle or anything, they're not going to think anything about it. She's not
Absolutely.
causing a scene, you know?
She didn't
That's just
know
insane.
her innocence ties into here because she didn't know she needed to cause a scene. She thought that this man would not hurt her. She thought that this man
Yep.
was just gonna buy them gifts and worked with her mother.
Yep. That's just crazy, like, to be right across the street from the police station, and, like, that's insane. The amount of confidence that somebody would have to do that.
Confidence that he should not have.
Yeah. Like, that's crazy.
So, because of the circumstances surrounding her disappearance, the FBI assisted the local police to find Amy. Kidnapping, again, is a federal crime, so that's why they were pretty much, hey, get over here. The family was quickly cleared of any suspicion, so they searched the family's home. Like, they cleared the father, cleared the mother. Obviously, family didn't have anything to do with it. They figured that out
Yeah.
pretty early on. But of course, they have to clear everybody.
Yep.
That's just something that they have to do. And in reference to the call, because the call, when I first heard this case, is the first thing that stuck out to me. Caller ID, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
No. There was no caller ID at this time because the call was local. So the police started from where they knew she was that day, school, which I hate that. So this man was local. So he likely knew that the police station was right across from Bay Village Square. If he's a local, he would know that.
Yep.
Police talked to her friends and soon found out about the phone call and the meeting regarding the gifts. They also talked to one of the eyewitnesses to get an initial composite sketch generated of the man. He was estimated to be about 35 to 40 years old, slightly muscular build with dark wavy hair, perhaps with a bald spot. Between 5'7" and 5'11", and he was wearing glasses. Because they just glanced over, they didn't actively, like, watch them. So it's hard to get, very specific, narrow down there. And they're 11. So Amy calling her mother gave this man time, probably at least an hour or more. And like we already stated, he was confident. He likely knew that she needed to call and knew what to tell her to say, or Amy told him that she needed to call. He knew when her mother would be home and when Amy was home alone. That, along with taking her right in front of a police station, showed his level of confidence in his crime. Robert Ressler, which is a criminal psychologist, said, quote, "This is an intelligent man, presentable, well-spoken. This is a complicated, personal crime," end quote. A massive search happened, with the entire community pitching in to find Amy, but it turned up empty. No one immediately recognized the man from the initial composite sketch. So the police dig into Margaret's job, but they find out she didn't actually get a promotion, but changed from part-time to full-time at Trading Times Magazine. So, of course, they look for anyone in connection with her job, but again, it came up empty. The two little 11-year-old eyewitnesses each sat down with an FBI artist to get a better composite sketch from each. And the man is very similar in each sketch with a few varying details. One of the eyewitnesses said the man had glasses and the other witness did not remember glasses. Otherwise, if you look at these sketches, they look so similar. So obviously they were talking about the same man, glasses or no glasses. On December 11th of 1989, which was Amy's 11th birthday, Margaret wrote this letter to Amy. Quote, "To our dearest darling Amy, happy birthday. Since you aren't here at the moment and we don't know the address, we decided the only way to get birthday greetings to you was this way. We know from birthdays past that you would choose spaghetti for your meal and angel food cake with confetti frosting. So in your honor, that's what we'll be having. Don't worry, we'll save some for you too. One thing that we won't tell you is what your present is. You'll have to come home to find out what that is. In our hearts, we know that instead of a box to unwrap, you only want one thing for your birthday, to come home." We are here waiting for you, sweetie. Till then, our gift to you is lots and lots of love and prayers for your safety and well-being. We miss you so much. Love, Mom, Dad, and Jason. End quote.
So sad.
It just absolutely shredded my heart when there's one part in here that said, let me find it. Don't worry, we'll save some for you too.
Yeah. That's so
Like,
sad.
it just, the entire thing is just, it's horrific for any family to have to go through this. But families go through this every single day.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking. It's unfair. But unfortunately, Amy still does not come home. And I'm going to go ahead and play some audio. Again, this is the second audio clip. But it'll be the only other audio clip that we play. So the rest of this will be me discussing everything else with you. But I want you to feel the impact this had on, namely, Margaret.
Oh, happy birthday. We miss you. Come home. It's very difficult to have a birthday party without the birthday girl.
It's not that we're TV stars or people that speak in public or anything like that. You just do it because there's part of your life out there that's we need to get back home.
Painful to watch.
I actually start to tear up when I hear Margaret's voice and when she says it's very hard to have a birthday party without the birthday girl.
Me too.
That's why I wanted to include that. Jason, of course, had a part in there as well. And that's very sad. And then Mark Mihaljevic, her father, also. But Margaret's pain, you can hear it.
Yeah.
Give us just a second, guys. You okay?
Yeah. It's just really sad.
Yeah, it's horrific. It's heartbreaking. Suddenly, 5 weeks later, the family receives a phone call from Farmington, Maine, who claims to be Amy. The FBI analysis is able to determine that it was not Amy's voice on the call, but instead it's someone who has done this many times in the past. And what she has found, she is not charged due to her mental health issues. So basically, it's just a hoax call. Which I can imagine the little ray of hope the family probably had.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's awful. Amy's family never gave up on her and continued to fight to get her in every headline and news show that they could. Mark and Margaret made many appearances trying to find answers as to where Amy was or what had happened to her. And even in that clip that I showed, well, I guess played, not showed, because you can't see it. But on that clip that I played for you guys, Mark said that's a missing part of our lives. Amy is a missing part of our lives. In the meantime, while they were fighting to get answers for Amy, a letter was sent to families in the area to see if any other children had received phone calls like the one Amy received that lured her out to meet this man. A girl from a neighboring town came forward and spoke, saying that she had received a similar call from an unknown man asking her and her brother to come out with him to surprise her mother for a gift because he hadn't seen her in a long time and he was an old friend. The girl did not fall for his charms and called her mother immediately to report the man. A police report was filed. Around a month later is when Amy goes missing. A detective came to talk to the little girl and noticed that she had horseshoe trophies. So he finds out that this little girl and Amy had something else in common. They both went to Holly Hill Farm to ride horses, which, if you remember, is one of Amy's passions. So she loved horses, she loved animals, but namely horses. So is this a connection? We don't know. A search of Holly Hill was conducted, and the caretaker did raise suspicions as he paid a good amount of attention to Amy and could have previously had contacted or known Margaret. And as the good amount of attention, I'm not even sure what that means. I just seen that in a source. It obviously wasn't anything crazy, like anything criminal, but that he, I guess, maybe looked at her a little bit more. I'm not 100% sure on that. The source material doesn't really say a lot about it. Anything further, I'm not really comfortable saying because it wasn't in the source material. But after the investigators basically looked into this caretaker, he was cleared of suspicion. A big part of this was that they didn't believe that he had the mental capabilities to commit this crime. And they state the man that did this was very intelligent and calculated every move of his and Amy's. So that's why they cleared the caretaker. Another little girl, 10 years old, received a similar phone call like Amy did. So this is another little girl. The man stated to this little girl that he was her mom's boss and he wanted to pick her up after school. The little girl stated that she had to ask her grandma for permission, and then this fucking man, started to guilt trip this little girl about asking for permission because it was supposed to be a surprise.
Holy shit.
He was trying to manipulate a little girl. I mean, it's not crazy considering what he fucking does to Amy, but it's just like he thought he was so clever. He's like, I'll just manipulate her. She'll come out. Ugh, I hate this guy. I hate this guy. I hate this guy. Two more little girls received these phone calls as well, and they were twin sisters from a neighboring town. And the calls they received from the man were just like the one that lured Amy from her home that day, claiming that he wanted to surprise their mother with a secret gift for her promotion. Like, they claimed, and this is different from the other ones, but they claimed that every time their mother left their home, this man would call. To them, it was like he knew when the mom left.
And he was watching.
Mm-hmm, and the girls remembered a strange car being outside of their home when this happened. So is it possible he was outside of the home each time he called a little girl?
I mean, if he was local, it would be, right?
Here's the thing. In 1989, there were cell phones, but they weren't common. So if he was outside, it's possible, but not likely that he was calling from outside. I don't know how else to put that. He could have had a cell phone, but they were not very common. It's one of those things that it's like, maybe not. We don't know. He could have been watching. Minimum, he knew their moves. He knew when they were home alone. So you have to start to think, how did he know that? So he could have been outside, but we weren't there, so nobody really knows. And 1989, cell phones, like I said, existed. Just not very common that everyone had one. So minimum, he knew their schedules. And how did he know that? It's just one of those questions when it comes down to it. Like, how was he able to contact all of these little girls when, their mothers were not home? How is he able to do that with all of them?
Yeah. It's like he had to have been watching all of them and, like, trailed them just to see when they'd be home alone.
He was a very intelligent man, so who knows the lengths that he went to before this planning. Yeah. I mean, look at how many little girls he tried to get to come out before Amy actually would.
Yep. It's insane.
He was going to find a victim some way, somehow, and he made sure of that. The police, armed with this information, started to look for a link between all these little girls and how this man knew their phone numbers. Because he knew how to contact all of them. And how? How did he have this information? And there was one link. All of the girls, including Amy, had attended the Lake Erie Nature and Science Center in Bay Village. But we're going to come back to that a little bit. But right now, I'm going to take you to February of 1990. And this is where they found her body. So just if you need to skip ahead a little bit, go ahead and do that. But this is when the trigger warning that I gave you at the beginning of the episode comes into play. On the morning of February 8th, 1990, Amy's body was found. A jogger was running down Route 1181, which was around 50 miles from Bay Village, and thought she saw clothing on the side of the road. She looked a little closer and discovered it to be the body of a little girl in light green clothing. It was quickly determined to be Amy. She had been killed somewhere else and placed there. So this disappearance immediately turned into a murder investigation. An autopsy revealed that Amy had been dumped shortly after her abduction. Her cause of death was determined to be multiple stab wounds to the neck.
Oh my God.
Horrific. She also had blunt force trauma to the head, but it was not a fatal blow. There was also blood in her underwear, along with them being inside out, indicating that Amy likely suffered some form of sexual abuse prior to her death, but it wasn't proven that this was the case due to her level of decomposition. They also found yellow or gold colored fibers on her body, which may have been from the car, and I'll mention those later as well. Police noticed Amy was missing quite a few things, though, including her blue horsehead earrings, her boots, her denim backpack, and a binder with Buick Best in Class written on the front clasp, which was a gift from her father. It wasn't a well-known, it's not a binder that everyone would have had. So these were not found with her. And near the scene, they found an avocado-colored curtain/blanket, and it was sent for testing. But at this time in 1990, not much is found. So the reason that I referenced it as a curtain/blanket is because this originated as a bed sheet, but it was later sewn into a curtain. Later, current testing concluded that the pet hairs removed from the curtain belonged to the family dog Jake, and this confirms that Amy was wrapped in this after her death and prior to the man leaving her body. Other fibers were found and were also submitted to the FBI for testing. Mitochondrial DNA from the crime scene was sampled, which may be used in the future to compare to suspects. This was found both on Amy and the curtain/blanket. 3 hairs from someone other than Amy or her family were found as well. The police determined that Route 1181 would likely be familiar to the man. He was likely from the area, or he knew the area very well. And again, the phone number Amy was called from was a local number, so that's why they couldn't trace it. So everything pointed to this man being a local man. Everything.
Insane. God.
So they have DNA. This man likely took trophies because Amy is missing so much of her stuff. Very unique things that she was missing. So I'm going to take you back to the Lake Erie Nature and Science Center in Bay Village. Every one of the little girls who received a call from this man visited the center at one time or another. The biggest thing about this was that the center had a logbook that the little girls and their families would write down their phone numbers and addresses. So if someone had access to this logbook, that's where they would have their information. That's how they would have those phone numbers, right?
Yeah. That seems about right.
Mm-hmm. But when the police went to find the logbook, it was gone, so they couldn't officially confirm the link.
Oh my God.
Because of course it's gone, because he probably still has it.
Took it.
Yeah, he probably has it. Like, it's like they can't trace me if I take it.
So it had to have been someone that worked there.
So the police searched and searched, and this is the main link that they found between the girls. So it had to have something to do with the center, right? At least we think that's what the case is. So police did receive a phone call from a woman traveling on Route 1181, and she stated she saw a vehicle in the area a day before Amy's body was discovered. The woman saw a man at the back of the car with the hatch open, but couldn't remember the specifics about the man or the car. And Amy's body was allegedly already in the field and had been for months because remember, the medical reports say that she was dumped shortly after her abduction.
Yeah.
And this happened in October, and they didn't find her till February. So the day before, so this would be February 7th, the woman seen this man. So what was this individual doing here with his hatch up and the exact location where she was found? So just more unanswered questions. So one thing that usually happens with criminals is sometimes they like to relive their crimes by returning to the scenes.
Yep.
And that happens with more, so I feel like it's serial killers, right?
Yep.
You think of like Ted Bundy, people like that. But he could have, and Amy may not have been his first as well. We don't know that because we don't officially know who it was. No one's been charged. No one's been prosecuted. So the woman couldn't remember anything. So the police tried hypnosis to see if the man could pop up in the woman's memory at all or any other details. And it works. There's a new composite sketch released based on the details. But unfortunately, nothing real solid comes from it. And another note that I made here is him going back possibly to the scene of the crime right before she was discovered. Was he wanting Amy's body to be found? Because if you're going there and you're drawing attention to the fact that you're there, like you're going there, you're not just driving by, you're like stopping. Were you trying to draw attention to that location? More questions. We don't know. It's just something that I thought of.
Oh, goodness.
What's the most frustrating about this case is that it's unsolved.
Yeah.
And that Amy has gotten no justice. And the person that did this is likely still just running around living their life. And it infuriates me.
Yeah, that's super infuriating. They shouldn't be able to run around and enjoy their life.
No. The Bay Village police collected DNA samples from several potential suspects in the case in December of 2006. And they've likely collected more. I just don't have the exact dates. But I'd say that at this point in the source material, it doesn't really state like the dates like that. Just that, it's still an active case. This is still an active case. It's not a cold case. It's still an active case that they're investigating. But it's the longest active running case in Ohio, I believe, is what I read. But anyways, so for sure, December 2006, we know that they collected DNA from several potential suspects. So I'm going to go over a couple of this with you. So first was the handyman suspect. He worked on a house near Amy's in the weeks leading up to her abduction. Many people claim that he looked just like the composite sketch and was not an honest man. But dishonesty doesn't make you a murderer. It just makes you kind of a crappy person. He also had a solid alibi and was cleared. So there was a volunteer at the head of the search for Amy who placed himself into the investigation. The day Amy's body was found, he checked himself into the hospital, and her death directly impacted him so much that he committed suicide.
Gee.
But after he was investigated, he was cleared. There was no evidence tying him to Amy's murder. Which, that's wild.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But again, no real ties to Amy. There was also a man who confessed in church to killing Amy, and off-duty officers arrested the man, but he was later released when it was found the man suffered from schizophrenia and had not been taking his medicine. Again, nothing linked this man to Amy after a search of his home was completed. And the latest suspect that I personally believe, and everything from this point is kind of going to be like me saying this is why I believe it, and this is kind of why I think so. But I do have the opinion that this is likely the person that did this. It's not proven. No one's been charged. Everyone's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Blah, 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 blah. But I do believe that this is the person that either did this or knows who did it. So this person came to light in 2019. And think about that. Think about how many years that is. 1989 to 2019.
Jesus.
30 years. Yeah. Crazy, right? Mm-hmm. An ex-girlfriend accused him. She was dating him at the time. The ex stated that this man was weirdly absent from their place when Amy disappeared. So he usually came home, but that night he did not. The man called her later that evening and asked her on the phone if she saw anything in the news about Amy's abduction. Yeah. Not, hey, how are you? Like, how's your day going? No, have you saw the information in the news about Amy being kidnapped?
Serious?
I'm serious. Given that this was a huge thing in this small community, but still, that's a weird thing to ask somebody. Hey, did you see anything in the news about Amy's abduction? And you not coming home? That's a little sus. But hey, I'm not gonna say that's 100% him that did it based on that. There's other things I'm gonna give you right here. And again, nothing's 100% because we really don't know. He was also a middle school science teacher with ties to the Lake Erie Nature and Science Center in Bay Village. But how so? He volunteered there. So this man named Dean Runkle had a tie to the center because he was a volunteer there. He even encouraged his students to go there. That, along with the facts surrounding his behavior that night of her disappearance, makes him a suspect. He also had a niece that was in the same grade as Amy. So what if his niece was also a latchkey child and knew that the discrepancy between Jason getting home and Amy getting home and that hour of time that Amy would be home alone, right? And he was a middle school science teacher, so maybe he knew the school schedule as well. Like, he had so many things that he could have gotten information off of. When confronted, this man allegedly stated, this is what his statement was. He stated that he was never at the center and knows nothing regarding it. Yeah, he's like, oh yeah, I was never there.
Huh.
Like, I know you have proof that I volunteered to be out over there.
Yeah. Like, what?
I was never there. Okay. Alrighty then. Police interviews with this man included suspicious statements, including the possibility that he had met Amy's mother, Margaret, before. His DNA was obtained, and he later failed a polygraph, which, you take with a grain of salt. You know how polygraphs are. But still, that's something.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that happened in relevance to everything else. He told police that the only way his DNA would be on the curtain is if it was planted there. Which, okay, Dean. Yeah, who's gonna plant your DNA on a curtain in the middle of a field? Who's gonna plant your DNA there? If your DNA is there, it's probably because you had something to do with a crime.
Yep. Like,
that's such a weird thing to say too. Like, you're like, oh yeah, my DNA might be there, but if it is there, I didn't do it. What? Like, are you fucking kidding me? What is wrong with you? Well, I mean, there's probably a lot wrong with you. Let's not open that can of worms. But a warrant to search a storage facility led to authorities confiscating certain items of interest of Dean's. But to this day, we don't know what those are. And you got to think that they were probably looking for the potential trophies that were taken from Amy, all the things that she was missing, but we don't have anything. We have absolutely no information on that. And I believe that if they would have found something like that, they would have came out with a statement or probably charged him.
yeah.
But we don't know. There's so much that we don't know. This man also lived about 2 miles from where they found Amy's body and looked identical to the composite sketches. He was investigated twice in the past for improper relationships with students. This teacher has since relocated to Florida. Another point that leads to him, which you remember the 2 little 11-year-old eyewitnesses that saw Amy at the Bay Village Square that day? So, they did a photo lineup and put a picture of Dean Runkle so they could see it in the photo lineup along with a bunch of other people that look similar. And both of them in separate events picked Dean Runkle out of the photos of being the man that took Amy that day. They both picked his photo out and said, "This is him."
And they couldn't do anything with that?
No, it's not enough.
What?
They were 11. This was in 2020. They can't just arrest somebody based on, it just wouldn't hold up. They have no, physical evidence, really.
Jeez.
Not yet. But remember, they have DNA, but we don't know what the DNA results are or if there is enough DNA progression to do the testing. And I was going to get to that part later, but I will say that Mark Mihaljevic believes that the way this case is going to be solved is the DNA testing when it progresses. This man also stated that he could have called Amy's house before, but if he did, it would have just been a wrong number call.
How could that be a wrong number call? If you could have potentially called her house, but it's a wrong number. How? How does
so
it
many
happen?
suspicious statements? The interview with this guy just is like if you don't do something, you're adamant, no, that absolutely wasn't me. I'll help any way that I can. That wasn't me. Blah blah blah. You're not deceptive. I don't believe on your polygraph. Maybe you will be. Maybe it could have been. Because polygraphs aren't great. If you're asked to take a polygraph, don't fucking take it. If you have nothing to do with the crime, you're more than willing to help, but you're not going to say, "Oh yeah, I probably called the number, but if I did, or it was just a wrong number." And you're not going to say the other things that he said, "Oh, if my DNA is there, it's planted." So that's just fucking weird to say.
Yeah, those are weird.
You would be like,
things.
"No, my DNA will not be there. It will not be there." He did give DNA, but we don't know if there's been any testing on that yet. I know they're still waiting for some DNA progression. He would be so adamant, "No, my DNA is not there." And instead, he's like, "Oh, if it was planted, or if I did call, it was a wrong number."
Yeah, okay.
No. It's like he's trying to find an excuse for everything in case they do find this stuff. In case they do find the DNA matches, or in case they do find that he did call. Which we already... What?
There's absolutely no way that you calling a place is a wrong number. There's a very, very, very slim chance that you're calling a wrong number.
Mm-hmm.
A very slim chance. A super slim chance.
Oh, and you want to know something else?
What?
Remember the fibers, the yellow gold fibers found on Amy's body?
Yeah.
In the curtain? Mm-hmm. Those fibers found on Amy's body were very similar to what the man drove at the time.
Oh.
So, according to court records, an FBI agent noted a gold Oldsmobile registered to the man drove through an intersection near where Amy's body was dumped on the day that she was discovered, and he had no true reason to be in the area.
Arrest the guy. Just arrest
him. Wait for this one. So when the day that she was discovered, they have proof that he was in the area and he had no reason to be there. Just to point that out again. Police state... I'm all fired up. Police said when they asked the man if Amy was in his car, he said, "I don't believe so." But when they asked again if it was possible, this man changed and said, "Okay, but I don't know what the situation would have been where she would have been in my car."
What?
What are these answers? I'm sorry. These answers, like, are you kidding? You either know or you don't know. Say, hey, no, absolutely not. She was not in my car. This is not what happened. Like, don't say, oh, I don't believe so, but okay, but I don't know what the situation would have been.
Why?
What? Sorry, I just banged on my desk, guys. I'm all fired up. Amy's case gets me so pissed.
This is ridiculous.
Over 20,000 interviews have been conducted to date, and several suspects were asked to take polygraph tests, but as of now, there have been absolutely no arrests made, and this case is still unsolved. And it is active. It is not cold. It is active. Amy still does not have justice.
Unbelievable.
And a little side note, this Dean Runkle had a teaching job, right?
Yeah.
And so now he's in Florida. He moved to Florida and is living out of his car. Why would you give up a teaching job? And this is personal opinion, so if you guys don't agree with this, that's fine. But why would you give up a teaching job in Ohio, move to Florida, and choose to live out of your car? Does that not seem a little weird to you?
It's very weird. It's very weird.
Like, did you want to get away from the area that bad that you were okay with not teaching? Or, what's going on there? Losing Amy destroyed Margaret, as you could probably hear in her voice from the beginning. She continued to reel in pain because of the loss of her daughter. Her and Mark got divorced, and Margaret and Jason stayed in their home in Bay Village. Margaret would often be in Amy's room, so she would go to work, come home, Amy's room, live life. It basically was like at a standstill for her. Mark also resided in Bay Village at a different location, and he later remarried. Margaret is eventually diagnosed with lupus and moved out of Bay Village. She struggled with alcohol addiction, and ultimately it contributed to her death in 2001 at the age of 54. She was only 54. And Margaret's mother said this about her death, quote, "A very caring, loving person is gone who couldn't get her life back together after Amy disappeared," end quote. I can't even imagine what it's like to be a parent of a child that not only goes missing, but is murdered. And there's absolutely no answers for anybody being responsible. If you have any information on this unsolved case, please contact the Bay Village Police at 440-871-1234 or email jellish@cityofbayvillage.com, and that will be in our source material, and the source material will be in our show notes. Anyone who recognizes the curtain found near the scene could be the link to solve this case. Any information that you can give could be the thing that helps solve this case. Even if you think it's not significant, and this goes for this case and any case that we talk about. If you think that the information you have is not significant and it's just something small, it is significant. It is. Everything matters. And like I stated, Mark Mihaljevic believes that DNA testing progression will be what solves this case, but your information will also help. Your information could be something, even if it's not on Dean Runkle, even if it's not, like I said, relevancy, even if it's just the smallest thing, just email, because there's a form you have to fill out, or call. And I'm going to leave you at the end here with a quote from Mark Mihaljevic. Quote, "This kind of loss should never happen to any family. There will always be an ache in my heart forever until the time I'm gone. It's something you can't put into words. It hurts, and I'll always hurt," end quote. And that is the murder of Amy Mihaljevic.
It's so sad.
It's horrific. And she was the cutest little girl. I almost call her a little nugget. She was just so cute, and she just loved her parents, her family so much. She loved her dog Jake so much. She was super smart, super intelligent, had her entire life ahead of her, and it was ripped away by a very sick individual who shouldn't be walking the street, because who knows if Amy was his first or his last. Should not be walking the street.
Mm-mm.
So all of our source information will be in the show notes. Like I stated, Along with the source information, we're going to put the contact for any tips. And we're going to go ahead and wrap this up because we have another episode to cover after this one where Krista is going to be taking over.
Oh.
So make sure you guys don't miss that.
No.
You're going to do fine. Yeah, you support our show. I just like my mind blank there. Sorry, guys. Support our show. All of our socials will also be in the show notes. But what is our socials on Instagram and TikTok and X, I guess, Twitter. Whatever that is.
Cause of Crime Pod.
All right, we'll catch you guys next week.
Bye.
Oh, actually, we'll catch you guys in 2 weeks. I messed that up. We'll catch you guys in 2 weeks. It's not next week. It's 2 weeks. Thank you.